What if reaching spiritual liberation isn't the end of the story? What if it's actually a crossroads, a choice between two profoundly different kinds of freedom? A choice between mastering the game while you're still playing it, or leaving the game behind forever. This is a tension we could call the Moksha Paradox. It sets up an apparent conflict between the ideal of liberation right now and the goal of a final divine union. For centuries, seekers and sages have contemplated two pinnacles of spiritual life, Jivanmukti and Sayujya. One promises freedom in this very body, the other, a complete dissolution into the absolute. But here's the secret. They might not be rival goals at all. In fact, they could be answers to two very different, very fundamental spiritual questions. And by understanding those questions, we don't just solve the paradox. We uncover a deeper truth about the ultimate purpose of life itself. In many streams of Hindu thought, the ultimate goal is moksha, a word that means release or liberation. It's the final exit from samsara, that exhausting cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, and all the suffering that comes with it. But how and when this liberation is experienced has been a subject of profound discussion. And this is where two fascinating concepts come into play. First, there's Jivanmukti. From Sanskrit, jiva refers to the individual living soul, and mukti means release. It's the idea of being liberated while still alive. Then there's Sayujya, a term that points to a state of complete, intimate union with the divine. At first glance, these look like two different destinations. Do you want to be a free soul walking the earth, or do you want to merge so completely with God that your individual self dissolves like a drop of rain into the ocean? Now, while you won't find a formal ancient debate titled Jivanmukti versus Sayujya, the tension between these two ideals is a powerful lens for exploring the very nature of freedom. To unravel it, we first need to walk the path of the living saint. Jivanmukti literally means being released while living. It's a profound transformation of consciousness, where an individual attains self-knowledge and is inwardly free, even though they continue to live in a physical body. This isn't about escaping the world, but realizing your freedom within the world. The person who achieves this is called a Jivanmukta, a living, breathing example of liberation. The core of Jivanmukti, especially as it's understood in the school of Advaita Vedanta, is a radical shift in perspective. The realization that your true self, the Atman, is and always has been identical to the ultimate reality, Brahman. This isn't just an intellectual idea. It's a direct, intuitive experience that shatters the illusion of being a separate, limited person. That makes us identify with our body and mind is destroyed by this knowledge. So what does life actually feel like for a Jivanmukta? A powerful analogy often used is that of a dream. Before you wake up, a dream feels completely real, causing fear, joy, or anxiety. The Jivanmukta is like a person who has woken up while still in the dream. They see the dream world playing out, but they aren't fooled by it anymore. They know it's just an appearance, and so they are no longer psychologically bound by its highs and lows. This is why a Jivanmukta is described as being free from suffering. They aren't bothered by disrespect, they don't return anger with anger, and they remain unshaken by pleasure or pain, knowing these are just experiences happening to the body and mind, not to their true self. Their actions become spontaneous and aligned with cosmic order, or dharma, not because they're following rules, but because it's their very nature. But if they're liberated, why does the body stick around? This is often explained through the concept of karma, and the Advaita Vedanta school gives us a really useful model with three categories. There is sanchita karma, the massive storehouse of all past actions, agami karma, the new actions being created now, and prarabdha karma, the portion of past karma that's already in motion and is responsible for your current body. Upon attaining enlightenment, the fire of self-knowledge is said to burn away the entire storehouse of sanchita karma and prevent any new agami karma from sticking. However, the prarabdha karma has to run its course. Think of it like an arrow shot from a bow. Even if the archer realizes they aimed at the wrong target, once the arrow is released, it will fly until its momentum is spent. Similarly, the Jivanmukta's body continues until the karma that created it is exhausted. When that happens, the body falls away, and the sage attains Videhamukti, liberation without a body. So Jivanmukti answers a deeply human question: how can I be free from the ache of existence right now, in this life? It frames liberation not as a post-mortem reward, but as a living, breathing reality. Okay, so if Jivanmukti is about when you can be free, Sayujya explores what that ultimate freedom looks like. The word itself suggests being yoked or intimately united with the divine. But here's where things get really interesting, because the meaning of union changes depending on who you ask. The term Sayujya itself is used quite differently, especially when we compare non-dual philosophies like Advaita Vedanta with devotional or bhakti traditions like Vaishnavism. In Advaita Vedanta, the ultimate goal is realizing that your individual self was never separate from the one, formless absolute Brahman. The final state after the body falls away is like a river meeting the ocean. The river loses its name and form. It doesn't cease to exist. It becomes the ocean. While Advaita texts often just call this state moksha or Videhamukti, liberation without a body, we can think of it as a kind of Sayujya, a total dissolution of separateness. But for many devotional traditions like Vaishnavism, that sounds terrifying. Their goal isn't to disappear into God, but to have an eternal loving relationship with God, who is seen as a supreme person like Vishnu or Krishna. From this viewpoint, losing your identity to merge into a formless light would mean the end of that relationship. This is why this impersonal version of liberation, sometimes called Brahma Sayujya, is often considered less desirable. There's a powerful sentiment in the bhakti traditions, often associated with poet-sages like Bilvamangala Thakura, which says that for a true devotee, liberation itself, mukti, stands with folded hands, waiting to serve them. The sweetness of the relationship is seen as a higher prize than the freedom of disappearing. Because of this, these traditions often talk about several kinds of liberation that preserve one's identity. Salokya, living in the same realm as the Lord, Samipya, being a close companion, and Sarukya, having a similar form as the Lord. And here the term Sayujya is sometimes reinterpreted. It's not a loss of self, but the most intimate possible union, like a perfect embrace where two are still two, but are completely one in their experience of love. So let's go back to our paradox. Liberation now versus final union. Hopefully you can see by now that it's not really a conflict. These two ideas aren't competing destinations, they're answering two totally different spiritual questions. Jivanmukti is focused on the psychological and existential question, how can I be free from suffering while I'm alive? It's about the here and now. The final state after death, on the other hand, is about the metaphysical question, what is the ultimate nature of my soul's relationship to the Absolute? A Jivanmukta, someone who is liberated while living, will eventually let go of the body. This is called Videhamukti, or bodiless liberation. The nature of that final state depends on their path. For an Advaitin, it's the complete merging into Brahman. For a Vaishnava devotee, it might be entering into an eternal loving relationship with God, a state which could be described as Salokya, Samipya, or even a form of Sayujya that preserves individuality. So Sayujya isn't a universal term for the end state, but rather one beautiful and powerful description of what that ultimate union could be. So we've seen that the Moksha Paradox isn't much of a paradox at all. Jivanmukti is the incredible possibility of becoming free in this life, of being in the world but not trapped by it. And the concept of Sayujya gives us a language to contemplate what it means to finally merge with the infinite, whether that means becoming the ocean or entering into a perfect eternal embrace. One answers when we can be free. The other explores what that freedom ultimately is. The real question then isn't which one is better. The real question is, which inquiry resonates more with your own spiritual seeking right now? Are you searching for freedom from the suffering you experience day to day? Or are you contemplating the ultimate destiny of your soul? Think about it. Which question is alive in you? If this exploration sparked something within you, please consider subscribing and sharing this with others who are asking the big questions. I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments below. Which question resonates more with you? Freedom in this life or the ultimate union beyond it? Thank you for watching.